This video is going to show how to delid and relid a 10th gen Intel processor. It's probably going to be a pretty long video, probably a lot of just working without talking, so feel free to skip ahead whenever you want to. So here we have an i7 10700K, and I use the Rocket Cool Delidding kit. I also have a Rocket Cool copper IHS. Not sponsored by them or anything, I just like to use them. I've delidded more than 100 processors at this point. Always using these Rocket Cool tools. So, you just place the processor in the delidder with the triangle matching the triangle. And put this on. Tighten these down. I'm trying to shoot this outside for better lighting and just using my phone. Once that's tight, use the bigger Allen key. Once it stops turning, switch to this side. Sometimes you'll be able to hear or feel a pop once it breaks. Other times it's just a lot of tension. You just keep going. There, I just felt it break. I'm still going to keep going a little bit. There's a little screw right here. Just get it close to the edge and back it off. So with the 10th gen, I found there's a lot more of this factory adhesive. So it's completely broken off now, but it's still really sticky. So you gotta get a nail and just carefully try to peel it off the rest of the way. This one's really stuck on there. If you have a spudger, you can try that. Alright. Might have to put this back in and do it the reverse direction. There it goes. Alright, so there's the actual processor. This is the solder thermal paste mixture that Intel uses. There's the original IHS. You can set us to the side of this. Now I just got to clean this off. Again, probably want a fairly decent long fingernail. You can use the spudger as well. I just find fingernails easier. Don't really have to be afraid of scraping too hard. It's pretty durable. New for 10th gen is this line right there that wasn't there for 9th gen. So if you do buy a copper IHS, you have to make sure that it's the 10th gen version. The 10th gen die is lower than the 9th gen was. You can take your time and do this if you want. I've done over 100 of these. They're very durable, never had one break, fail, get scratched. So once I have most of this adhesive gone, give it a little squirt of Goo Gone, let it sit for a second. do want to do is put something extra underneath the processor just for applying pressure, so you're not putting pressure on the components on the back. Said, don't be afraid to scrub pretty hard. If you don't have Goo Gone, you can just use isopropyl. It'll just take a little bit longer and requires some more scrubbing, but the Goo Gone really helps make it easier. So once it's about 99% of the way done, I'm gonna change out the paper towel. And then give it a little splash of isopropyl. I just clean off the adhesive that made its way to the bottom. So now all we have left is to get rid of this thermal paste solder mixture. And for that, I use the Rocket Cool's Quicksilver, some Foots polish that they give you. Let's see. And then they have these little bamboo, I think they're bamboo spudgers. So what I like to do is just get some blue painter's tape, line it up with the edge of the die, tape it down to an anti-static mat. You can get your Quicksilver. This is not liquid metal. It looks like it, but it's not. It's basically the opposite. And I just pat a little tiny bit, so it looks like there's this much in the tube, but there's really not. It just stains the wall. There's really not much left in this tube. So I just get a little bit like that. And they give you these little Q-tip type things that are more of like a cloth fabric. And just smear it around. Now some of this solder adhesive will start to come off and loose just from this. But the main thing, you just want to completely cover it. If it's a fresh one of these that's clean, it's harder to get it moved around. Once it's embedded into this, it's easier to move. Just get it really in there, scrub it with some decent pressure. Alright, once you've done that, you take this and just start digging at it. Don't be afraid of scraping the die. You're not going to. You can literally take a razor blade to the die and not damage it. And you want to really make sure you get 100% of this material off. If there's a tiny bit left, it can create a hot spot or an uneven spot. So you just want to make sure, take your time, get every bit of it off. So just try to bunch it up at the corners. The tape's coming up a little bit. And then you can bunch it all together and get nice big globs of it. Scoop it onto your paper towel. Alright, now I'm going to use the flat side and push it all in the same direction. Alright, so the edges is where it likes to build up. So really got to make sure to scrape the edges down. And as long as you're going at an angle and not straight, you can easily just slide right off of the die and you're not going to push the tape back. And even if you did, it's not a big deal, it'll wash off with the isopropyl. So I just want to make sure to get it every bit off. This is the most time consuming thing, and when you have arthritis like I do, it is a little rough on your joints and your hand, but now we're going to use a little bit more Quicksilver, but first wipe it down with some isopropyl again. Just, yep, a little out of camera. I have it up on a tripod where I can't really see it, so sorry if it's not in focus the whole time. And just dab a little bit more on, spread it out again. Sorry if you can hear my kids. I came outside to try and avoid the noise, but I can hear them all the way out here. Alright, give that a good scrub. Wipe it down with alcohol again. Normally I like to use, 91% or better isopropyl, but with everything going on, that's very hard to find these days. So stuck with the 70%. Get the spudger again. Just do one more pass, make sure it's all gone. Don't worry about how it looks right now, the Flitz polish will clean it up. the polish. Just put a little bit right onto it. Rocket Coal's been very good with these packets of flitch polish. Every time I order, they give me a ton of them. I have way more than I'm ever going to need. So then just dab it all over the die, like so, and then just start scrubbing. Now, you don't have to push terribly hard for this, but I do find speed helps it come off a lot better. So put a little more. That down and give it a nice dose of isopropyl. My paper towels are building up. We'll probably go through like a third of a roll of paper towels doing just one. Yeah, the tape's getting weak after pouring the isopropyl on it, but overall the die looks really good so far. There's a couple more spots to touch up, so just get a small piece of paper towel, put a little flitz onto it directly, give it one more scrub. It's not turning as black anymore. Applying a little more pressure now. And I'll start peeling this tape off. Give another squirt of Goo Gone just to get the tape residue off of it. If you don't have the Goo Gone, again, the isopropyl will be fine. Just trying to keep it in the camera. So this particular i7 was doing 5.1 all cores with 1.32 volts, and then OCCT AVX small set was hitting 92 to 94 Celsius on the cores, which is hotter than I would like it to be. It's using my NZXT X63 280mm cooler. From what I've seen, I'm expecting around a 6 to 10 degree drop from doing this, but it, you know, I've seen as high as 30, I've seen it as low as, you know, 1 or 2. It's just really hard to tell, but we will find out tonight once I get this together and it's dry and ready to use. One more splash of isopropyl. Here. So now if you are not replacing the IHS, you can use the Quicksilver and the spudger to clean all of this off. Don't worry if you scrape some of the yellow off, that doesn't matter. You can use your fingernail, spudger, whatever to get all this off. And then you can just apply your liquid metal into that rectangle and on the die. And then I use this Permatex just around the edges to replace that factory adhesive. But we are going to be swapping that IHS for this copper one. So let's see if I can get this to focus well enough. But you want a complete mirror with nothing that showing. Yeah, see, that's a complete mirror. You don't want any bumps or any of that factory thermal solder left on there. So now if this is ready, this is for 9th gen, but it works for the 10th gen just the same. And again, we want to line up the triangles. This is the base of the tool that you use for delidding. And then you have this piece, which is the size of this. And then here's a dot for the triangle. And basically it fits like that. So you'd put this here, drop that down, and then use this tool, screw it in, tighten it down, it clamps it shut so that it can dry. But before we get through all of that, back here, so again, dot, triangle, and I like to flip it over, that way when I'm done I can just flip it like that. Go and put this piece on here now. And use conductor knot, liquid metal. But before using the liquid metal, I want to put the Permatex around the edge of the IHS. The reason for that is if you put the liquid metal on and then you get some of the Permatex in it, it's a huge pain and you've just wasted your liquid metal. Make sure that that's clean. Alright, there's a couple little imperfections in there you might be able to see. So what I want to do is just put a little flitz on here. Give that a nice scrub. Now that'll visually or cosmetically change the way that the copper looks and the shine. But it's also rubbing down those couple of spots that weren't perfect. And really all that matters is this rectangle spot straight through the center where it's going to be touching the die. So I just want that nice and clean. And this has to be completely dry. Let's see. Yeah, much more mirror-like now. Alright, so for the Permatex, did it dry out already? Alright, yeah, so pretty much once you use it the first time, it's going to clog at the tip and dry out. So. What I like to do is just put a little cloud right there. Close this back up. Then I have a thermal paste spreading tool that I'd gotten a long time ago, Delidding. I mean, that should say something. But you can use, you know, a credit card, and, put a glove on your hand, use your finger, you know, whatever you want to do. Just get a super, super thin layer all the way around the edge. You know, the thinner you can get the layer, the better contact you'll have from the die to the IHS. That's the biggest problem causing the heat issues with Intel processors, is how much of the thermal, or how much adhesive they are using, not the thermal, you know, paste or solder that they're using. Some of them have just so much adhesive that it's you know, amazing that it applies any pressure at all to the die. Say the worst 9900K I saw was, you know, thermal throttling at stock with a 280mm cooler, and it had more adhesive than any other one I had seen by about 2.5 times. That's the one that I couldn't even give an exact number of how much the temperature dropped, because it would just thermal throttle at stock. Alright, see, so I got a little bit of RTV in the center, which is why you don't want to do the liquid metal first. I've also got a little bit too thick of a layer along that side, but we can scrape some of that off. So I like to have full coverage while maintaining it as thin as possible. And yeah, should have said earlier, probably want gloves, but yeah, it's no big deal for me. Alright, and then for the edges, just go like this. The wind is blowing my paper towel away. get some isopropyl and clean up as much as you can off your fingers, so we can stop spreading it around. And then very carefully just do the edge. Get any off of top. So then what I do is I'll use this and clean it up first. Wrap it tight around the paper towel, like so. And dang it, that sucked. It's flat. There. Just keep it away from the middle. Fold up a corner that's wet with isopropyl. Just make sure there's none in the middle. Paper towel down. Alright, so I know the dot that lines up with the triangle is this corner, so when I flip it and put it on, it'll go like that. The way I can tell, it's to the left of these two notches. Wind really picking up now. Let's put this stuff away real quick. Alright, so liquid metal time. Make sure there's nothing that's blown on the die. So I'm going to go ahead and give it another wipe with the paper towel just to make sure. So for the liquid metal, you just want pretty much as small of a dot as you can possibly get put onto the die and the IHS. So that's about that much right there, and the same right there. Pull it back, take this top off, try not to waste any. Take this and just start smearing it around. And just be very careful not to go off of the die. You don't really need any pressure to apply this. You just want to smear it around. Try to get it as even as you can. And then I like to just dot like this all over it. Just to create some height for it to connect with the IHS right here. Like that. And do the same here. What I want to do is try to draw a rectangle the same size and placement of the die. Seems I got a little hair. that. Now we flip this. Again, triangle, dot. Very carefully, try not to touch it on anything. Push it straight down. I did get some RTV on the top, so before I clamp it, I want to clean that up. So just a little bit of flitz, just a little bit. This. Now, you don't want to do just where it was, because the flitz will change the appearance. So if you want it to look the same, you do need to wipe the whole surface area. But I'm trying not to make a mess and get it smeared down the side. Now there is some play for it to move while inside this holder, but it's not going to, move it around too much. I'm just being gentle, just using as much isopropyl as I need to as it gets dark. Flipping, I'm just trying not to make a huge mess that'll be a pain to deal with later. Just about done. One more isopropyl pass, then a drying pass, and then clamp it down. There we go. Now, just line up these screws. And tighten this. So what I do is I'll tighten until it pretty much stops just from light finger presses. And then so right now this is still straight, and then as I tighten it, this will bend. It's before it causes any damage or pressure to the IHS. So I'll give it probably another full turn, and you can see this is no longer straight because it's lifting. What I do want to look for is unevenness of the part that touches the IHS. If it starts lifting on one side, then it's not giving it was tightened too much. So then I back it off just a little bit and try to eye it so that it's an even pressure on the whole base of that plastic screw. And then just leave it in here for, I don't know, I typically go overnight. I'd say probably at least 4 or 5 hours, depends. If you're going to put it straight into the motherboard, that clamp will help hold it down. So you could do it like this for a couple hours and then put it in the motherboard and start using it, and then the clamp will help hold it in place while it dries. But that's that. So we'll see how this does tonight. Alright, thanks for watching. Here's my test bench now that the delid is done. This was the before temps. As high as 93, 94. Use Cinebench, pass mark, OCCT. And then now with the delid, copper IHS. Hit a max of 85, so a 9-degree drop.